today, Nellie Newman.
And you
tour
said
guide.
you are one of the few people who was here at 9/11.
That's right.
So just
yes.
tell me what you remember about that day and what it was like
Well,
for you.
I had 9 members of the British Parliament with me.
Oh, wow.
And we were on tour. I had them in the old Senate chamber when the police burst in and they just shouted at us, evacuate immediately. We had seen in an earlier time, while in our break room, I had seen the planes fly into the towers, but I didn't know, what was coming after that. So I took the people that were with me, the people from Great Britain, and I led them downstairs. And then when we got downstairs, I realized no one had gone into the Supreme Court and notified them. So I went in there and I said, please evacuate immediately, follow me out this door. So as we left the building, police were outside, of course, and they were literally screaming at us, run for your life, run as far and as fast as you can. A plane was coming right for us. It was less than a block away. We had no idea who was in that plane, so we ran. We later found out it was a friendly plane, but we didn't know it at the time. So as we ran from the building, I just desperately wanted to take one more look at the Capitol. So I turned and looked back over my shoulder and I saw the most beautiful, radiantly beautiful blue sky. And the white dome had never shimmered more beautifully in the sunlight. But on my left was a scene I will never forget, and that was the smoke and the flames from the Pentagon, searing the sky over the Rayburn office building. Now my husband works at the Pentagon, but he happened to be out of the office that morning, but the room where he usually has his meetings is the room that took the direct hit. So I knew friends would be lost, and yes, today their names are engraved on the memorial. So it was a very sobering and frightening experience, but we did learn a lot. We learned it's one thing to get people into a building, but it's a totally different matter to get them safely out. So this is why we always ask people to stay together, because in case of an evacuation, it's my responsibility to show them the safe way out of the building. And evacuations are not unusual here. We get threats on, quite often. So this is why we try to be very careful. As we left the building that day, members of Congress were pouring out of both chambers, desperately dialing cell phones that would not work. And their faces reflected, please, somebody help me, help me. Sirens were screaming everywhere. And I must admit, my first thought was, where do I go on Capitol Hill to get away from a government building? You don't. That's the long and the short of it. So I thought, well, I'll run behind the Supreme Court. Then I thought, no, if somebody that would slam planes into buildings might be mad at the judicial system. So my next most coherent thought was to go behind the Library of Congress, because I thought if the Capitol is hit, the library, some of the books in the library will absorb some of the impact. So with that, I headed in that direction, and about that time, a friend ran past me and he said, let's go to my dad's office. And his dad's office was about 3 blocks down the street. So quite a few of us went there. And this gentleman very graciously pointed to his phone and he said, call anywhere in the nation, just let your family know you're all right. So we were always very grateful for that. But as we fled the building, one of the scenes that I remember was the east front of the Capitol being covered with empty shoes. And people have often asked, why the shoes? And I always wished I could have taken a picture of that, because it would have explained what we were feeling, but it would have been appropriate in a family newspaper. But my camera was locked in the Capitol, and of course all of the media were over at the Pentagon, understandably. But the reason for the empty shoes was it was such a beautiful day. Many of the women had worn sandals, and you just can't run in sandals. So we literally kicked off our shoes and ran for our lives.
Wow, thank you so much for taking the time to share